Evil geniuses turn to ban. Evil geniuses turn to ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Welcome back to Dota Pit season number 2 here on twitch.tv/Dota Pit. I'm What Is It from High Ground TV. With me tonight is F4L and Phage Guy from High Ground TV and Standard Deviants on stats. F4L, buddy, what's going on?
Not much. I'm doing good. Pretty excited for this game. I know Tinker's been slumping, but
Tinker's been slumping, but I mean,
so
I think
EG.
the same can be said for EG. They've lost some games recently against teams like Complexity. I think they lost to Virtus Pro. So
Yep.
they've had some issues lately.
Now the VP one was in the captain's
That was in
draft,
captain's draft,
so.
yeah, which EG has had a surprisingly poor
5
performance
seconds
in.
remaining.
Charlie claims it's because they're experimenting, but he's covering for him. But we've got Tinker versus EG, and like you mentioned, looking forward to this one. Popping over to the standings really quick, seeing how these two teams are doing. Evil Genius is doing quite well thus far, 7-3 right now. They are tied for first place in the group with Virtus Pro and Complexity, and then we've got Team Tinker 4-2. So both teams in an okay position, but I think for Tinker this is a pretty important match for them to at least get a win out of.
Yeah, I think they would be probably pretty happy with going 1-1.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
And EG probably not
Dire team
that.
pick.
It's probably not that important of a match for them. I think as long as they get one win out of it,
yeah.
they're in good shape. Yeah.
Top 4 advance out of each group into the playoffs, and it's a single limb bracket from there. So there's not a huge advantage for getting higher up in the group beyond seeding advantage. So they just want to be in the top 4. Maybe they'll try some different strategies, but they're going to go with the Ogre here, and bans from Tinker are the Razor and the Jakiro. Razor,
remaining.
probably the most common ban against EG. Arteezy's Razor is
5
extremely
seconds
good.
remaining.
I think he's only lost something like 1 game. And,
No, well, he lost both games against Complexity.
team-
He had Razor in both games.
He had Razor in both games.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, in the last time that these two teams played each other, Arteezy was on Razor. He went 15-1-7, and you can probably imagine that Evil Geniuses took that one down. And
Yeah.
Skywrath Mage as well as the Brewmaster banned out for Evil Geniuses.
Pretty standard bans. I actually think the Jakiro is the more important ban against EG.
I agree, yeah.
A lot of their play recently has been centered around these pushing and getting a large advantage in the early game and then snowballing off of tower kills, and Jakiro just perfectly fits their playstyle. And of course, Universe always playing spectacularly well on that hero, so good ban for them. I would say the Razor, maybe it doesn't need to be banned anymore just because of the nerfs that it's had, but I mean, Arteezy still is very capable of putting really good
10
performances on that
seconds
hero.
remaining.
Yeah, and continuing on forward here.
5 seconds remaining.
Evil Geniuses, where do they want to head with this pick? This is kind of an interesting spot for me because there's a possibility they pick an Arteezy
Reserve
hero
time.
here, under the possibility that a lot get banned out in the next phase, or maybe they'll be looking for another strong support. But basically the scheme lately has seemed to have been against EG, at least, banning out a lot of Arteezy's stronger heroes. His hero pool has been, I think, a little bit more limited in this recent patch and the last patch. He's mostly been playing, heroes like Razor, Death Prophet. He has PA occasionally. Shadow Fiend's kind of a pocket pick from them, but it feels like it wasn't as diverse as it used to be.
To be honest, I think that's just because EG pick what they think is strong. And, some people will say like, oh, this person doesn't have a large hero pool because they're only playing these heroes, but a lot of times that's a very conscious decision by a team, that it's not that he can't play these heroes, it's just they're going to pick what they feel is strong. And, I mean, that's what EG do. And we saw, when Arteezy was first playing with EG, he was playing a lot of Naga, Tinker, these really farm-centric mid-heroes. And then, towards TI, he switched towards, the Razors and the DPs, which are more, pace. I would say they farm a lot, but they're not as they're not as reliant on farm. They can still do things without farm.
10
Yep.
seconds
And
And
remaining.
they're
whereas-
able to...
Go ahead. No, oh, you just, dude, you know,
seconds remaining.
you owe me something. But let's just pop over to the matchup of the series here. We've got
Reserve
Sing Sing
time.
versus Universe, respective offlaners. Although it should definitely be
Evil
noted
geniuses
that Team
turn to
Tinker is a
ban.
bit more flexible in terms of their laning, but Sing Sing does seem to be playing a lot of offlane recently. Sometimes he does play Brewmaster in the mid lane, and a lot of people have been saying that Sing Sing has
Dire
not really
team
been
banned.
excelling in this new lineup. He might be the weakest link or the least flexible player. What do you
That
think
might be
about
true,
that?
but I think that he sort of gets the short end of the stick when it comes to what heroes he plays, because Poikva and
10
Pycat, it seems
seconds
like,
remaining.
get the first choice of which hero they play, it seems like. I mean,
5 seconds
Pycat's only really been
remaining.
playing 3 heroes. He's been playing a lot of Slark, Legion, Commander, Viper,
Reserve time.
and then, you know, Quakefa plays, you know, a generally farm-centric hero, and then Sing Sing's sort of just
Evil
stuck playing a hero that,
geniuses turn
you know,
to
he's
pick.
probably not as comfortable with. I actually think Tinker was doing a lot better when they had Sing Sing in the mid lane and Quakefa playing the off lane. Seems like Quakefa's a bit better at, you know, getting his items up faster, not feeding in the off lane. I think Sing Sing sort of struggles with that aspect of off laning.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes he just dies a little
And-
too
and
much, and then
sort
it
of-
just...
On the other end, they have you.
10
I mean, you look at
seconds
Universe,
remaining.
and he is a player that just does not die very much. He's under 4
5
for his
seconds
average
remaining.
deaths in the last 25 games, and that's something that EG is pretty much none of them
Reserve time.
die very much. Almost all of them
Yeah.
are under 4 except for Zai, so he's at 5.2, and no one on Tinker is under 4.7 in terms of deaths per game. So
And
interesting matchup there. But popping back to the draft, we've got Elder Titan for Team Tinker.
it looks like they haven't, Tinker haven't lost with Venge in this patch, so that is one thing to note. And they are going to get, I mean, they're going to have a lot of damage coming out from whichever carry hero they choose with the Elder Titan and the Venge aura and negative armor. So, I mean, these heroes on EG are not going to have any armor this game.
Yeah, no, definitely no armor. And Elder Titan does close out some picks that might have been a consideration earlier. Notably, like the Morphling, you know, there's a
Yeah. 10
possibility
seconds
that RTZ
remaining.
plays that in the mid lane,
I
but
mean,
with Elder Titan, that's just not.
we saw C9 try
5
to pick
seconds
Morphling into Elder
remaining.
Titan, and that didn't end so well for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the hero just, it can't function against Elder Titan. And a
Dire
Witch
team
Doctor
pick.
pick. I'm actually kind of surprised. I thought they actually might go for a Lich, just because of how well it does against Elder Titan. I have seen them run the Lich Ogre offlane dual lane, and they do tend to favor these dual lanes quite a bit.
And taking a quick look at the second round of bans here, Evil Geniuses have banned out the Necrophos, and we've seen that hero. He is one hell of a
10
hero.
seconds
Even if he's the
remaining.
only one getting farm, he can be incredibly powerful. Lycan also
5
banned out here for
seconds
Evil
remaining.
Geniuses. Not a very popular hero for Team Tinker, but it is Dire Side. We have seen the Dire Side
Reserve
Lycan
time.
do some ridiculous work, and Team Tinker have banned out the Dazzle as well as the Doom in their last round of bans.
Yep, and what are Team Tinker going to pick? So, most likely going to be an Awfully Time Hunter, support Venge, and support Elder Titan. Could we maybe see something like a Medusa come out for them? It would be pretty strong here, or maybe they want something a bit more aggressive, so...
Viper.
Yep, and it's going to be the Viper for Pycat.
Evil
You know,
geniuses
I mean, he's
turn
really
to
just
pick.
been playing 3 heroes recently. The Viper, the Legion Commander, and the Slark is mostly what I've been seeing out of him recently, so... Not too much of a surprise for Tinker.
Just a hero that applies pressure,
Yeah.
can buy the early mechanism, let your Tidehunter go directly for the Blink Dagger, and Naga
Dire
Siren for
team
the Evil
back.
Geniuses. And this is almost certainly RTZ Naga. I
Yep.
mean, they already have the Witch Doctor. There's a chance
Unless-
that this is a core ogre, in which case
Okay.
it could be a...
The
But if
one
it's
nice-
a core, yeah, if it's a core ogre, then it's a mid puck,
Yeah.
and then they have Naga as support.
Well, I was going to say the one nice thing about picking Naga Siren here is that
seconds
there's still
remaining.
the small possibility that it's a support. So
Yeah.
that is
5
one nice
seconds
thing about picking a
remaining.
hero like this, just because, you know, they can have the Naga Witch Doctor support
Reserve
duo with the
time.
Ogre offlane, but I would say it's pretty unlikely at this point. It's most likely just going to be that mid Naga Siren.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that should be noted about Evil Geniuses is they have a lot of flexibility on their players on each hero. I mean, if you look through their recent games, Fear plays Puck, Universe plays Puck, you know, Ogre can be played in the core role, can be played in the support role. PPD and Zai both play the Witch Doctor. Naga a little bit less flexible normally just because, you know, it's one of our TZ's best heroes for sure. So the flexibility though is something that Evil Geniuses have been concentrating on. It's something that Peter has mentioned in interviews. It's something that they're actively working on to try to make sure that their players are as flexible as possible. And you know, that might allow them down the road, once they've sort of grown accustomed to this style, to have much greater flexibility in their drafts.
Yeah, and someone in the chat multiple people have said that our mic volumes aren't very aligned. So I'm going to try to listen.
Am I too quiet?
I don't know. I'm going to try to listen really quick.
I'm going to assume I'm too quiet. But
yeah, you're too quiet.
All right. Well, we will
fix.
It's an easy fix, you know. Easy peasy. But Team Tinker, last pick here. Where do they want to go with this?
Probably going to be mid hero.
Yeah. They do have the Viper, which can go there, but what's the Viper versus Naga matchup?
Naga farms decently in that matchup.
Yeah,
like you get pressured. The issue with Viper is that you can't really clear out the illusions very effectively, which is actually quite important early. So yeah, they are going to go with the Ember. So the Ember is going to be mid against Naga, so he's going to have a really easy time in this matchup. He's going to be able to harass Naga, clear out those illusions quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, Ember, we've seen a lot of success. I don't know. I'm really torn about this hero because sometimes you see it and it's just like a complete lame duck and it does nothing. And sometimes you see it and it's absolutely amazing, destroys everyone.
Yeah. When I watch the Chinese play Ember, he looks like a tier 1 hero, like a first pick.
Yeah, like super or something.
I think not even just super, like a lot of the tier 2 Chinese teams as well have been picking a lot of Ember Spirit, and they'll like take games off LGD and like top tier Chinese teams with Ember, and you performances like that and you're like, well, maybe this hero is tier 1. And then I just think maybe Western teams don't use the hero correctly, just because when I watch Western teams play it, it just seems like it's a coin flip. Like half the time they go ham